What's going on, you guys? This is Bridget Kelly, and you are locked into We Talk Weekly.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to We Talk Weekly's After the Talk. And I'm your boy, Charles Gregory, with the beautiful
Lauren Sizzle
and the beautiful
Classy Lady Sparkle.
And this is We Talk Weekly's After the Talk on WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We Talk Weekly's After the Talk, and we have a dynamic show for you today. Of course, we have some good news and bad news. We have the Sizzle, and we got Lily in the building. She's going to give us some music, some of the music that's going on today, and she's been doing our post. So if you haven't been to our We Talk Weekly page yet, I'm talking about our official website. Make sure you go there. Take a look at all of the blog posts that we have on there, all of the good things, some of the ads, everything on there. Just go there. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you share. Tell everybody about We Talk Weekly. But without any further ado, I have to ask you ladies, how was your day? How was your day?
I had a pretty good day. I actually had a pretty good day. Very productive. I'm working on a few things. I'm excited to be starting working on my script. So yeah. I'm so excited for that. Yay. I just realized how, and I think this is like a fun fact about me that people might not know, but I wrote my first play when I was probably like about 10 years old. And when I started writing the script, I remembered how much I love writing and I love storytelling. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
Fantastic. Fantastic. How about you, Classy Lady? Holla at me.
My day was good, but I just want to say, Sizzle, when the casting come, I'm gonna be right there. So
yes, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely. My day was good. I got out the house. It's kind of warm. It was kind of warm today, so I don't have any complaints. None. I had a good day. What's up with you? See, how was yours?
Busy as usual. It's about that work, putting in that work and preparing for the show as usual. And I'm just, wasn't too cold today. Lately it's been freezing outside, so it wasn't too cold today. I'm a little disappointed with how many people are still not following the rules and covering up and masking up. It's a lot of people that are getting very, very sick. So if you're watching, make sure you mask up. Make sure you take care of yourself. We need you in the best of health and well-being. So without further ado, that I get excited with this segment because this is my favorite segment of the show. This is the interviews. And why is this my favorite segment of the show? Because we get the opportunity to interview the good people, the who's who, people who are doing things. And this person with whom I have a tremendous amount of respect. When you want to talk about doing things and helping people financially, we're going to talk big money, and I'm absolutely excited to bring him on today. So without further ado, Classy Lady, who do we have today?
We have the renowned Jimmy R. McGonigle. Is an author and an entrepreneur. He started with humble beginnings from a row home in West Philadelphia to mansions in Margate. He has spearheaded many initiatives, and with his innovative thinking, it has granted him millions of dollars. So one of his partnerships with Stansbury Mining was where he negotiated $1 million deal that the stock went from a penny to $1 in a year. There's several different companies that he's done that we'll get into during the interview. Vintner Corporation, his company's market cap from 400,000 to 120 million. There are many companies that Jimmy made substantial revenue. However, Many were for other causes. So he's currently created a totally new program, Operation Key West, which will provide military parents that have to deal with losing a child a 1-week all-expense vacation at a location of their choice. So let's give a warm welcome for Mr. Jimmy McGonigle.
McGonigle, how are you, sir? How are you?
Well, fine, thank you. That is quite an introduction. I was listening, and I don't even remember being me. I will just correct one thing. It wasn't a mansion in Margate. I don't think they have any mansions. It was an ocean penthouse.
Ocean.
Yeah.
Ocean.
It was a mansion in my mind, certainly. And that's where everything happens anyway, in your mind.
Fantastic.
But I appreciate the opportunity. I just finished the book 9 days ago, so this is my maiden voyage, so to speak, in promoting, what we're about. It's free, so we're not here to sell anything.
Oh, cool. Fantastic. Well, since I wanted to start from the beginning, right, and then get to the book, but I think you did an excellent transition. Let's start with the book and then talk about what led up to the book. So your free book that you created. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the process and why did you create that?
All right. Well, back in May, I got a call from an individual friend of mine, and everybody has a lot of time on their hands these days. And he said, he had, over the years, a few people have occasionally asked me, why don't I write a book? I don't really have the patience for that. So this is one of those people that had asked me years ago. Anyway, he called, he said, Jimmy, he said, have you ever heard of a podcast? I said, I've heard of it, but I'm not sure what it is. He said, well, you can tell a story instead of writing it. Why don't you think about that? So I said, that sounds like an interesting idea. So I decided to do that. And I started with a podcast entitled Hope, Help, and Ideas. And my goal was, if I could impact one individual with my story, either with some small degree of hope, help, or an idea, then this whole thing was a success. About 4 episodes into it, I received a call from a gentleman who I have a high regard for, the pediatric oncologist who we're working with our Operation Key West program. And he told me he had 2 daughters, and he told me that after listening to episode number 4 of the podcast, that he's decided to rethink how he's raising his daughters. I thought, wow, this is really, I did not expect that. So in the last week in July, at episode 29, I decided I'm going to stop the podcast. I had 75 listeners. I started with 10. And I decided I'm going to do a book with a beginning, middle, and an end, rather than do podcasts for the rest of my natural life. So what happened was, and this is bizarre, is that I have never mentioned that podcast again. And this past week, I passed 1,400 listeners. I haven't the slightest idea how that happened. But in doing the book, it's been a cathartic experience. It caused me to revisit people, places, and events I probably would have never done again. And in the process, the reaction to the chapters, it's really been cool. It's kind of like a series of short stories. The chapters are between 5 and 10 minutes, and they start really in West Philadelphia, 52nd and Ranstead. And so it's a story that I think a lot of people can relate to, because if someone were to look at my resume up to 1976 and compared it with anybody else, there is absolutely nothing that would indicate that my life would be what it has been since 1976. And I think that is, I hope I'm going to be able to reach out. The reason I did free is I wanted everybody that interested to be able to access the book, especially people in underserved areas. And I did an audio versus a video because I wanted to be, I'm Irish, spent a lot of time in bars. I wanted to kind of be a conversation with one-on-one. If you do a video, it's almost like the motivational speaking type of audience. You don't personalize it. when you listen to a ball game or anything on the radio, your imagination is your ally. If it's a video, the imagination is not a factor. You're watching something. Anyway, that's kind of a summary, a quick summary of how I got to here. And what I hope is going to happen is that I'm going to have an opportunity to be a guest or a speaker with groups, whether they be young people. I mean, this world needs, the whole theme of the book really is self-confidence. That's the whole thing. And I think that the enemy of self-confidence is fear. And we have enough fear in this world to go around. So that is really where I'm at. And with here appearing live, as close to live as I can be, I'm open for questions or however you want to proceed with this. Like I said, this is all new to me.
So what are some changes, I guess, that you're hoping, or some ways that you're hoping that people will be impacted by, given the current economy and the direction that the country is going in right now? What are some takeaways or things that you're hoping that people will take from, the book and be able to move forward within their lives and whatever they're doing?
Well, the number one message I have for self-confidence is I believe that a child between the ages of 7 and 12, I believe the major role of a parent can be summed up in one word: encouragement. I experienced it. It changes your life. It gives you don't second guess yourself. You do your homework, but if parents realized how important that role is, and I say between 7 and 12 because most 7-year-olds today can take care of themselves. They're pretty smart. And at 12 years old, you haven't yet got to high school and the distractions that happen from your teenage years. And you're looking up to your parents. And unfortunately, that's the easy way to develop self-confidence. It's kind of like starting life on second base.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that, and unfortunately, a lot of people do not have that experience, that's a lot tougher. It can be done. To me, my definition, there's 3 ingredients I believe in the self-confidence. One, that if you have these 3, I call them genes, you're on your way. And they're maybe not your typical 3 that people would use for self-confidence. The first one is you have to have your receivers turned on. Everybody has their transmitters turned on. We don't learn by what we say. We learn by what we hear. And knowledge is power. And with that, knowledge gives a person confidence, an advantage going into a situation if they know what they're talking about. The second thing that I think is you have to have the generosity gene. If you don't share, but when you have that gene, then you realize there's people worse off. And once you realize that people worse off, you're how lucky you are. Mm-hmm. And that's important for self-confidence. You got to feel good about yourself. Too many people rely on other people for their happiness. That's a fool's game. And the third thing, and the most important, is you have to appreciate. You have to appreciate. If you don't appreciate, it's like you're running in place. You're never going to get anywhere because there's always somebody or something that you don't have. I'm sure the 3 of you will agree that probably the happiest people that you've met in your life may very well have been the people that have had the fewest material things.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, they're focused on what they have. Anyway, that's what I hope to convey. And I think that people, it plays a much bigger, and the goal of the book really is to show the role, the importance and the role that it played. There were several examples in my life where self-confidence really was a determining factor. It caused me to think out of the box. It is extremely difficult for a person lacking self-confidence to think out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
because usually people that lack confidence, if they have an idea and they're excited about it, and then they realize, well, a minute, it's their idea. So, or they have an idea to get excited, and then they thought, well, if it was this good, why didn't somebody else have it? Talk themselves out. That's, to me, that's the best example I can give you of where the confidence factor comes into play. Right. And people, it's in this world, it's sad that there's not an emphasis on that. There's emphasis on everything else in learning, but that. And without that, you can have a child, you can shower them with Harvard education, they can be the best entertainer or whatever. How many people get on the drugs and things like that because they don't like themselves?
That belonging and that being a part of something is and a lot of times that's where books come in to save people that that don't have that support system. But just for the sake of our viewers, Jimmy, and I know you, when I introduced you with that impressive bio, let everyone know, like, what is your title? How did it start? Is it stock marketing? Give us a brief of who Jimmy McGonigle is.
Okay, well, basically, my very first investment, and I mentioned these in the book, it took 9 years before the payday. So I was not an overnight success. In fact, I was a triple decade success, if you want to call it that. I pretty much have been on my own. I've been fortunate. My parents used to say that I'm living proof that there is a God and he or she is all knowing, because he gave me the skill set to provide for myself and my family. Because if I ever had to work for somebody, I would be the employee from hell. So it's been a fabulous journey. And like I said, it's very hard to summarize it, except to say that going from West Philadelphia, my career really, the most emphasis and the most contribution occurred before I moved from West Philadelphia when I was after 8th grade. And because I lived in a neighborhood, a predominantly Black neighborhood, and I went to school, a grade school at St. Leonard's Academy, 13 blocks away, I kind of had the best of both worlds, which most people don't. I was educated kind of like in a hermetically sealed environment, get a report card every week, 12 kids in the class. That created this feeling of competitiveness. But at the same time, I lived in the real world. And if you grow, to me, the street smarts will always trump the book smarts, in my opinion, because it forces you to get along with people. If you live in a row home, in the suburbs, your neighbor, you may not even see your neighbor for 6 months. So that you don't, that's why, and the computer hasn't helped in that regard, because too many people live and play in a two-dimensional world. And that you're not going to develop many social skills talking to yourself.
True. Well, so, if you could explain for our viewers, maybe some of the things that you saw growing up that made you feel like this self-help book is something that I need to do to try to, help some of the young people in the community or outside of the community that may need a sense of direction or, just some assistance in their life to help them get through.
Well, I really hadn't planned on doing this. This was not like something that I thought about for years. It just happened to be. I think the virus, the whole environment, I realized how treacherous it is out there. And I guess maybe this really triggered in my mind, and acted as a catalyst that if I was ever going to do something, this would be the time. I felt that the importance of my story, or the potential importance to somebody, and I'm only trying to talk to one at a time. So I don't know what the bigger picture is and how it all is going to come out. But I really felt that I needed to do this because of the shape that this country is in. And before that, I really hadn't thought about it. I was too busy having a good time. People really need. They need people. They need to know. They need to have a mechanism like what you people do, where they. Well, let me just address one thing. Let me address the racial thing. This is just my opinion. I had them. People. No one's ever accused me of being subtle. This is really not about color. It never has been. This is economics. And the reason I say that is I'm not a big fan of politicians. In fact, this past year, it's the first time I ever voted because I always felt that politicians were the real enemy of the country, not Ho Chi Minh or Saddam Hussein, because they're outside the circle. And to me, you have people that are just, there's a lot of desperation. And nobody's seen the color issue. To me, is the reason that politicians harp on that as the problem with the racial issue is because they can't fix that. The reason they avoid the real issue, in my mind, of economics is because they could. But as long as they are blaming something, a color of the skin, well, they kind of like say, well, we can't do much about that. And that's, in my opinion, that's what the problem is. That, and there's just not enough, empathy in the world right now. I'll tell you one good thing that's happened, though. I think that, well, a couple good things. I think that there's going to be more young people go into science in the next 10 years than ever before. Maybe everybody ever went before, because they realize that the earth and everybody else is in trouble without science. And I see that as a major benefit. And I also see that what we're doing here, Zoom. I know my mother was in a nursing home. I always was amazed how many people were fine, not on a tube or anything, and never got a visitor. The truth always was, well, the family lives away. I get that. But now Zoom, necessity is the mother of invention. So that's a plus from this. I think there's going to be a lot more going forward of people in nursing homes and long assisted living. They're going to stay in connection because they were forced to learn how to do this. Like me, I was forced.
So Jimmy, for Zoom, has the stocks for WebEx and Zoom and all those virtual platforms, has stocks gone crazy high for that?
Well, first of all, I'm not a big stock market fan, even though that's where I've made my money, but I'm a control freak. I started my own deals. I was my own chief cook and bottle washer. My mother was my first investor in every deal. So it was really a mom and pa a string of public companies. To me, I'm going to say something. I'm going to give you my opinion about the stock market, is that one of the things that's wrong with this country, in my opinion, is that about a dozen companies have exploded, starting with Amazon, because of the pandemic. If I were running things, I would have capped their profit on last year, taken the excess, used that money to fund the small businesses. They could have saved thousands of them. Because the only reason that they had this incredible year, they had the incredible year at other people suffering. Yeah, I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah, you know, and you say something that's very profound, and it's about kind of like the marketing being able to cap, right? Which I don't think a lot of those businesses will be willing to do that per se, or be, open for, capping their margins, right? But, I want to jump more into the monies. I mean, because, you have helped so many different organizations and corporations, one, go public, but also you're talking about negotiating $100 million here. You're talking about 35 million there. You're talking about another maybe 120,000, 400,000. I mean, for 120 million, 400,000. You're talking crazy numbers. I mean, these are numbers that a lot of people, even small organizations and corporations, wouldn't even be able to obtain. And so with that as an understanding, and that's kind of your specialty to bring these companies to those margins, how are you capable and able to do that?
Well, that's the best question I've been asked. I mean, ever, for this reason.
Wow.
There's a way around this that really could. I sent a letter to the Clinton administration back in '92 when they had basically destroyed the entrepreneurial spirit in America. Time when America, you could go public and raise 80,000, 200,000, or what have you. You can't do that today, and then you haven't been able to do that for 25 years. To me, the way this company, that's why I've been able to have been successful, is because small companies, and two of the chapters, by the way, this is a true story, and I made a statement at the outset of on the website of the noplaceforcommonsense.com website, in that all of my business transaction I can document. I think that is very important in today's world of fake news. So, and I normally would have never said that, but that's another example. But if people got together and they encourage people to come up with ideas and fund ideas, I was involved in two companies. One, I still have the letter at home that provided what's called a biological reagent to Dr. Christian Bernard. I have a letter from Bernard to this company. This was my very first investments way back. Now that began organ transplants. The company raised $1 million. They were in the basement of their uncle's dental shop. They were in the basement. Another one, I put together a deal called AquaSurge with one of the top scientists, a young guy from Scripps Institute of Oceanography. That actually started the cultivation of the Earth's assets, mainly the algae, which is everybody thinks about, we're so used to billions and trillions, but you would be amazed how many things that have affected our life today that came from a mom and pop, a startup. And I don't mean a startup with 80 million or TikTok or one of these things. I'm talking about a literal startup. This company, this AquaSurge, we raised, I think, $300,000. $300,000.
Wow.
I'm just saying, this is gone now. So when you ask me a question about money, it's like that was made like in the Wild West. Now we're in this place where Wall Street has suffocated the entrepreneurial spirit. And today, I don't envy anybody with a startup, because it is, I won't say it's impossible, but the odds, and who has an idea that is worth $5 million at the Jump Street? Really? Not many.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these ideas are computer related. They're not really product related. They're a 14-year-old, and it's a good thing that can develop something. But how long is that? The market hasn't really reflected the economy. It's almost like we're living in some alternate universe. That people's 401ks are out of control, and the company and the country is out of control on the other side of that coin. Mm-hmm. To me, I know we're getting to the end here. I'll just say this. People complicate things so they can justify getting paid more money. The stock market is not that complicated. The most important element of the stock market is consumer confidence. It's the buying power of the general public. The buying power of the general public is not good today, but the market is up because they've tried every kind of thing to artificially keep it going. And one day, somebody's, who has money to go out and buy things? I mean, that's the basis for the market, has been from the beginning. Now we're into this high tech, but somewhere along the line, we were in a bubble way back when, and it exploded then. I'm just saying, I'm not into the market too much. My experience with the money, the things you're talking about, occurred almost in another lifetime. But I believe that one of the things hopefully could happen is if they were to create, and I offered the Clinton, I had an idea. It wasn't just I had a problem, I had a way to solve it, where you could encourage people with ideas and fund them, seed money, and see where they take you. We have serious brain power, but they're working for somebody else because they can't justify $5 million. And that's the minimum now. At least it was. Maybe it's higher now.
Yo, I have a quick question before I let you go, because you have touched on many things, and the one thing that you said that you have been pretty frank about and quoted as the race situation, right? And so I would like to ask you, in being frank, how much responsibility do you believe these major organizations has to support organizations and people who have been marginalized within this sector of money, right? Not having the access. What do you say to that?
Well, what I have to say to that, if Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, was my son, I would disown him.
Wow.
It would be an embarrassment to me and to my friends, because to think of somebody, well, the whole theme of my book when I started and ended is that my personal philosophy is nobody's last thought on this planet is ever about stuff. And what good is it, $1 trillion while you have thousands of people just in Dallas alone waiting in line for food? I mean, I don't get that. I just don't get it. I do not get that. And I don't see, I don't know where but we have become two different, there's no more middle class, basically. And so your question is, unless somebody mandates it, they don't even pay taxes. Yeah. I mean, so how can you possibly, it's not even black and white. This is why the poor are getting poorer and the rich. I saw a very scary statistic. The top 5 people in this country control over 50% of the total wealth.
Wow.
Now, who in their right mind thinks that's a good idea? So I can't, that question, unless they have a conscience, and it doesn't appear that these big companies, unless they're legislated, made to do it, I don't see very few people volunteering.
Wow. That's pretty.
I think one of the coolest people of all is Bono from U2, because he made a difference. Yeah. He went to Africa and helped with the AIDS. I mean, there's a guy took a celebrity and did something with his life. And he's not living in a cave somewhere. He's enjoying the same things everybody else. Private planes. It's not like, but I mean, how much do you need?
Yeah. How about that? And I think that, it's something to say that how much money is too much money before you can't do anything with the money that you have, and
not only that, it's fun. It's fun helping out somebody. Yeah. It really is, because it makes, what? Going back to the self-confidence. One of the keys to self-confidence is you have to like yourself. Well, guess what? I've never had an issue with self-confidence, but if I treat somebody or whatever, that's the best I feel about myself. Right. So it works. I mean, it's not like forget the altruistic part of it. It's good for your own self-confidence.
Mm-hmm. How about
which
that?
Allows you to it's not this separation of, well, the people give and they're the lucky, they're generous, but it has really nothing to do with, no, that's nonsense. Anyway, aren't you glad you had me?
Absolutely. Fantastic. And the one thing, the one thing that we always say is once you come to the show, you're always a friend to the show. And I love the fact that you're very transparent and able to, thoughtfully answer questions and give a perspective with institutional knowledge per se. But before I let you go, are you any relation to the late McGonigle, Jeff McGonigle, who actually for Temple University, McGonigle Hall?
No, I'm an only child. My mother and father stopped. They saw what way they were going, and they were smart. They said, "That's enough."
No doubt. So before,
I don't. I like basketball, but no.
Okay.
Nope.
So
but I appreciate this opportunity.
Not a problem at all. But before I let you go, I just want you to tell everybody how they can get the book again, how they can find you, how they can all that good old stuff.
Well, it's noplaceforcommonsense.com. It's a free audiobook, and ultimately, Zoom people or not, and interact either an individual chapter, or the philosophy, or the business, or the personal side. Right. Pretty straightforward, really.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, there you go. Well, it's pretty straightforward. And the one thing that I encourage that's pretty straightforward is if you're feeling generous, you can always donate to We Talk Weekly and support us.
I knew that was coming.
Shameless plug.
I'm going to do that just so so you can say you got me. You got me on tape. Now I have to do it. I was going to duck under the desk and say yes, but no, you got me.
Well, we really appreciate you, and you're welcome to come back anytime, and we'll help complete support and promote your book.
If you have any ideas with groups that are looking for a guest or a speaker, I'd love to.
Fantastic. I got a couple on hand, and we'll send them to you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem. You take care now.
Take care. Bye.
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 What's up, you guys? It's your girl Lauren Sizzle and Classy Lady Sparkle. And have you subscribed to our channel yet?
If the answer is no, you need to subscribe now.
Yeah, so stop what you're doing. Go right now and subscribe. We like you. You like us. So go ahead and subscribe.
Come on over. Be a part of the family of We Talk Weekly and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
So what are you waiting for? Subscribe
now.